Hi, I am Melissa Banko, and welcome to the Banko Buzz, a commercial interior design podcast. As a professional leader in our design industry, we found that there were a lot of questions that were coming to me and to us about business and growth and mentorship and really the people behind the design. So we created the Banko Buzz. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for joining us on the Banko Buzz. Hi, and welcome back to our podcast, The Banko Buzz, a commercial interior design podcast. We're talking all things interior design, thought leadership, mentorship. I'm Melissa Banko with Banko Design. We are a commercial interior design firm here in Marietta, Georgia, outside Atlanta. We are focusing on senior living, multifamily, and private club work. And I am so stoked today that I have a very good friend and partner in crime, Miss Katherine.
Hello, happy to be here.
So tell everybody who you are and what you do and how we know each other.
Yes, I'm Katherine Mosley. I'm a partner at Tribridge Residential. We're a multifamily company here based in Atlanta, and I oversee all of our ground up development. So I've had the pleasure of working with Melissa for years. We met because she rescued me on a project where I was in hot water, had one of those.
We rescued each other.
Yes. Like in 60 days, I'm supposed to have furniture and things are not looking good. So,
and what you don't know is I was going, yes, oh my God, we can totally make that happen, and freaking out that we could because we were still early on in our Banko journey.
Yes. So you rescued me on that first project and we just clicked immediately. And I think we've worked together on most of our projects since then.
Yeah, it's been awesome. You're so much fun to work with and so aligned. We are, this season on the podcast, we were talking about core values. So our core values here at Banko Design, we have 7 of them. They spell out studios. And we were ideating on who to have on and who to chat with to talk about driven. So our core values are a good metric for us internally, but they also help us gauge like who's great to do business with and who's the best partner and are we aligned and all those things. So we started to talk about driven and it was so funny. We were all like, Katherine.
Thank you.
So kudos to you for having put out that energy.
Awesome.
So what's driven to you? Let's maybe kick off that. We've got a fun little game we're going to play, but just to like set the stage for what we're going to talk about and why you're here today. What is being driven? And when we emailed you, we were like, what the heck? Or were you like, yeah, that totally makes sense. So,
I mean, I think I was like, this totally makes sense because it's very much aligned with my personality. I mean, to me, driven is just like pushing beyond your standard norm. So whatever that is, whatever phase of life you're in, it's just like always pushing to be better, to do more, to expand. I'm very fortunate and I was kind of raised in one of those families that was like, you can be anything that you want. You know, sky's the limit. And I think that has served me well in my career in a man's world, which is what commercial real estate has been for a long time. A lot of changes that we've seen, but for me, it's just like striving forward and knowing how to like pick yourself up when you fall down. I think that's a big part of it, and just being able to navigate kind of those rocky times and push through.
because it ain't always easy.
It is not always
Girl.
easy. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to start out by playing a little game.
Okay.
So I have a list of questions here. So our guests have all played a little game with me in the beginning to just kick us off, a nice little icebreaker. And they are all driven around like buzz, bee. So this game's called the hive mind. Okay, so like our Banko listeners, our Banko bees, they're going to help like track this with us.
Okay.
So I'm gonna ask a question and we're gonna vibe.
Okay.
And we're gonna answer and we're gonna see if our answers are the same.
Ooh,
Okay. Or it's like the newlywed game,
Yes.
but like design and development
Okay,
edition.
let's see.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay. What has been your favorite Tribridge Banko collab project together to date?
I mean, that's a hard one. That's like asking me my favorite child.
I know.
They're all very
because they're all
different.
babies.
But I do have an
gestation is
answer.
longer with these
yes.
projects than actually growing a human child.
I do have my answer.
Okay, me too. And what's funny too is I wonder if we're gonna call it something different.
We are. That's why I'm putting 2 names on mine.
In development, if you do not know, it starts out sometimes with like a street address,
name.
and then it's whatever the designer and architect name it, and then it's like
Yes.
what you register it as, and then
3
like
years
what
later,
what
it
it's
has an
branded.
actual name. Yes.
Like, wait, which one are we talking about? Okay.
Okay.
On the count of 3. Ready?
1, 2, 3.
Oh!
So
that would totally
okay.
be my second.
So
so we have to tell everybody who's
Yes.
not listening. So Katherine
I put the Mallory, which was a deal we built in Raleigh. The reason I put this is we did some weird stuff. We had a bowling alley in it,
Yes.
but we had a whole like Instagram wall with a neon sign that said "What the duck," because we had this like mallard concept. We had like ducks everywhere,
Yes.
and obviously play on words.
Yes.
And I just thought that was kind of fun.
That
and
was
witty.
very fun. And what was the story? Where did the ducks come from?
They were
the
from-
actual ducks that we installed in the property in the bowling alley.
Yes. So like Melissa and her team came up with the design idea, and I was like, hey, my grandpa actually has like 50 wooden ducks that he's getting
like
rid
so
of.
random.
So literally like all of my granddad's ducks are like on the wall at the Mallory.
And she brings them into the studio, and we're like, how did we get here?
Yeah.
Like the things that we do in our day-to-day lives. And you're like, did you ever think in your
Yeah.
career that you would be driving
No.
ducks to a designer to
But
install?
I did save one of your interns from just roaming like antique stores
Sometimes
and
they
trying to
need help
find
with
old
that.
ducks. So, you know.
We appreciate you. Okay, can I get a little like tissue or a?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great.
Hand me one too. Well, and so Melissa put the Davenport, which admittedly is one of, again, these are my children. They all have their own personalities.
Yes.
So like the Davenport makes me the happiest.
It's
and it's
very
like
bright.
the brightest. And I'm happy when I go there.
So I think that was from like a pure design. That one it's fresh. It's like super fun and vibrant. The lighting's really funky,
Yes.
and we did some different things. And I will say, as just like a macro comment, why I freaking love designing for you is you let us be kind of wild and crazy.
Yes.
Now, listen, sometimes you're like, okay, pump the brakes. That's super wild, but I love that you let us, like, there's not all of our groups I could look at and say, hey, why don't we do What the Duck?
Yeah.
And you're like, that's
Yes.
So,
Well, okay. So to that, when I was like preparing for this, I was like thinking of different stories, and I was like, one of my favorite like Melissa moments is we're like doing a design presentation. She bites her lip just like she's doing right now, and like goes to the next slide. Like, are you gonna like this? I don't
'Cause
know.
it's scary.
And you can tell she's like so nervous and quiet. And then
which is not really like me.
I know, but it's usually for a very bold moment. And I usually like take a minute, and by a minute I mean a second, and it's usually a pretty quick yes for me.
Oh yeah, well I know exactly. I can tell by
I
your
love it.
face.
It's like the lip bite, and like here we go.
And I want to say it was like I love it,
Yes.
and then I could breathe again.
Yes.
So
Agreed.
that is our relationship.
Yes, it
you
is.
tell me what you like.
Oh, I'm very honest.
I know. And you tell me what you do not like, and I love that about you. Okay, what has been the most challenging Tribridge Banko project to work on? Are you ready?
Yes.
Why is it taking so
Oh. We're like
Okay.
not on. Okay.
So
I said the goat farm. Again, this is a project where Melissa kind of had to like step in and fix some things for another designer. And it's just a very eclectic project. There's like
It's
a
wild.
lot of cooks in the kitchen. It was an experience.
Well, so what's funny is like, okay, so I said one, which we're currently
Yes.
working on, and that is for different. So yes, I agree with you. We got through it. Like
Yeah.
we're here and we're like surviving. But one is a voluminous project, and without sounding like a total like weirdo and creative, you connect with projects creatively in different ways.
Yep.
And sometimes even with our children, because
Yeah.
you said like these projects are like children, you have seasons where you're like, I'm vibing with that baby right
Yeah.
now. I'm vibing with this kid in that season. And then there's others where it's like, I kind of want to like strangle you.
Yeah.
So with one,
So you want to strangle one
like
Riverside?
a little bit, but only because it's just, we're in the thick of it.
Yeah.
That's the season we're in. Like
It's also a huge project and so many
huge.
amenity spaces.
It's voluminous in
Yeah.
the spaces and the amenities, and it's challenging.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like at the end we're gonna look back and be like, it's one of the best we ever did,
Yeah.
but it's challenging.
Well, you know what's funny about this little exercise is we obviously come at this from very different perspectives. I think yours is about like the concept and like the execution and did it mesh, and to your
Yes.
point, like are you vibing with
like
it?
kind of the things you hire me to do.
Yes. And for me, it's the stress of like, was it too expensive? Did we have trouble with this? Was it like hard to install? Or
Yes.
like that more like on the execution side, because that's where I feel my pain points.
But also, again, without sounding like a total wackadoodle, like we do feel that energy from good partners. Like we know when it's stressful for you. And that's where we really try to step in with that service piece of what we do is like, how can I help?
Well,
like,
and
how
y'all
can
are
I
great
serve?
at adapting because that's just something I mean, you know, we design these things and they're actually getting installed oftentimes like 2 years later. So things aren't available or don't work, or sometimes we just change our mind.
Right.
So I appreciate that I can call you or text you from a job site and be like, it's not working.
Yeah.
And we just jump
And
on
I'm like,
it
okay,
and
send me
figure something
pictures.
out. Yeah.
I'm helping. Okay, the next question is, what is the most overdone trend in multifamily interiors currently?
In
Multifamily. What is the most overdone trend?
I mean, what do we mean when we say trend? Are we
Like,
talking
do you
about
wanna do
like
a design? Do you want
a
to skip
wall
this one?
detail,
Do you want to
or-
skip it?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
I would have said shiplap if it was like.
Thank you. I love
homes,
you so
'cause-
much. I kiss you on the mouth. Okay. Is Katherine, okay, ready?
Yes.
Are you a night owl
No.
or a morning? She just answered that question. Okay.
Oh, sorry, I'm supposed to write this down.
Okay, this is hilarious. I'm not the one who created these questions. Am I an Android user or an iPhone user?
Android, because I give her shit about it every time.
Why'd you turn my text message?
Yeah.
How am I sending
The old
you?
green dot.
Okay, we're gonna write this down,
Okay.
and we're gonna do good at this.
Okay.
What is Katherine's favorite beverage?
Hopefully you know. Oh God. I mean, this was of today, so hopefully that's what you did. So we're getting one right.
Coke Zero?
Yeah. Cherry
Oh,
Coke
cherry
Zero.
too.
Okay, I'll do the Coke Zero.
Okay. All right, 2 more questions. Between the two of us, who likes to fly more, travel more?
I don't think either of us.
Okay,
like
can we
it.
just say
Yeah.
it's a
We do it.
necessity
We do
of
it.
the job?
I like to fly to the Bahamas, so
Okay,
I'm good with that.
Let's do this question. I'm going to combine the last two. Yeah, it depends on where you're flying and who you're flying with.
Exactly. Flying to Raleigh? Nah.
Right.
No.
No, yeah. Florida day trip. No. Okay. If you had to pick between fly or drive, what would you do?
I'm sorry, I forget I'm supposed to write.
It's okay. This is
It's a fly.
me too. I hate to drive.
I mean, like driving, and I can actually get stuff done while I'm flying.
I'm a fantastic passenger princess.
Yeah.
Like I'm really, really good at it, but I hate being in the car.
Yeah, not a fan.
Now, when I'm driving to work, like I do like the alone time. But if I had to
I will say, I get more done on a plane than anyone I know, because I also have that fatal flaw of I cannot sleep on a plane. So, man, I am cranking.
I can sleep on a plane and I fall
Congratulations.
asleep
I wish I
and it's
could.
really unattractive. And Travis Snyder, who you will hear an episode with him in this season, he has a lot of photos of me asleep on, because sometimes you're just, you know?
Yeah, it's not a good look.
So I'm either doing that or I'm like,
Mouth open.
100. He was like,
back.
listen, the worst thing that happened to you was masks were not required
Yeah.
anymore.
So have you fallen asleep on a stranger?
No.
Like just his shoulder, you know?
I feel like I wouldn't make it weird, and I'd probably end up working with
I mean,
them.
they'd probably
you
like
know?
it, but-
no, I've never fallen asleep on a string. It's always back. Like I'm really good
Yeah.
at that. And then there's like a head thing. Okay, so we are here today to talk about drive and being driven. This is absolutely something that we look for. Certainly people that we hire, that we want on our team here. We want people who are just like, get in, get it done, take the bull by the horns, self-starters, all of those things. And we feel like you embody those things. And that's why I think we jam too, because we're like, let's just get it done. Like,
That's right.
sometimes why is everyone making this hard? You
Yes.
know? And I think if that were like my
make a
t-shirt,
decision.
like that would be it. Like, why are you making this hard? Like, just get it done.
Yes.
So, so give us your background a little bit.
Okay.
I think that your story and what you're doing and like that you're killing it is going to resonate with so many other people, women maybe specifically, especially in the field that you're in. So I want to like tell your story and let, you know, and maybe some advice to like, what would you tell your younger self, that whole thing. So before that, give us the journey. So,
Okay.
and maybe start even like, where did you grow up? Did you think like, yeah, like I'm 5-year-old Katherine, I'm going to be in development, you know? Give us and how you got maybe post-school and then that start of your career.
Okay, so I grew up out in Marietta, Georgia, so right around here. I'm a Walton Raider. Went to Georgia Tech, Georgia State. I'm a Georgia girl, like through and through. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. When I came out of college, I knew I wanted to be in real estate, but I think that was just kind of a general assumption.
And was anybody in your family real estate?
I mean, my mom's a realtor, but not like in commercial real estate.
So this wasn't like a legacy. I've had a touch point with it before.
No, it's just kind of an aspiration to kind of like take it to the next level. My last semester that I was in college, I was actually having a conversation with my friend about how I needed to find an internship. And Tribridge, the company that I'm a partner at now, our VP of acquisitions was standing behind me. He's like the most gregarious guy. If you ever meet him, this makes sense. And he literally turned around and tapped me on my shoulder and said, I'm looking for an intern for our real estate department this summer. Do you want an interview? So
were you just like, what the?
A little, yeah.
hell
But he,
just
like I said,
happened?
he is like the nicest, most gregarious guy ever. So
You're
it's
just
kind of
like, uh-huh.
okay, like this was kind of meant to be. So I'm a unicorn in that I interviewed at Tribridge, started as an intern, and have worked my way up and have become partner. I started in 2006. So I came in right at like the peak of the commercial real estate. So things were awesome. Everything was possible. Everyone was making money. It was great. Until 2008, when all of a sudden we're having like meetings and people are getting laid off. And I joke looking back that like I was a little naive because I never worried about losing my job. But I think part of that is like the drive in me and the hustle that was just like, I'll do anything. Cool. We're not doing that anymore. Then I'm going to jump in and do this over here. And so during those years, kind of from the Great Recession, I went from, I was being trained in development. Great Recession hit, development was closed for business for many years. So I jumped into acquisitions. I did market research. We did receivership. Like I did business development, like whatever we needed, I just like jumped in and did. And I think that was a very cool foundation for me because it really made me like a jack of all trades and really honed my ability to adapt. I think that's part of like how I am wired anyways, is I like a challenge and I like moving. But when it's like, you're kind of fighting for your job and fighting to make deals work, it kind of puts a little more pressure on that. So obviously that was just kind of like a great foundation. Once the markets came back, jumped right back into development. It is interesting, my career, because commercial real estate is heavily male dominated. I've seen a lot of change in recent years, which is like so encouraging. But when I started, I mean, I was the only woman in the room.
Like legit,
like legitimately, or we would go to these conferences and there would be like hundreds of people there and there's probably like 5 women. So it was definitely like, you had to be confident or kind of like fake it till you made it because that was just like the world we were in. I'm very fortunate in that I adapted to that well. I think it's been exciting for me over my career to like look at the deals we've done too, because my MO is like, I don't build the same thing and then just like go drop it in other markets. For me, it's about like really immersing myself in the neighborhood. What's the vibe? Who's the demographic? Like who's living here? And like, how are they going to actually like experience this on the human level? Which, there's nothing wrong with building widgets. That's just not what we do. But I think that makes me like very proud of the portfolio that I've developed. I joke about them as my children, but that's how I feel because they all have such unique personalities, different challenges. But it's great. I'm, obviously been there a long time, first female partner at Tribridge Residential, and we're still kicking and going.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you just been grinding. And what would you say to a younger self or to somebody younger about the benefits of putting that time in and being with one company? Do you ever, am I allowed to ask that? Like, would you look back and go, maybe I should have done this, or maybe I should have like gotten experience here. Like, how have you navigated around and what have been the benefits of being at because again, you mentioned the recession. A lot of us lost our jobs like I graduated in 2008 and I was like, what have I done? Yeah. So I think it's really great that part of your story was a company isn't necessarily going to say, okay, like it's, we're in a downturn, like you were learning things and doing things and all of that. So you stayed.
I did. And what I always tell people is like, I found my right cultural fit. I think for me, a job is a job. Life has so many things that it throws at you. But like, if you're able to find people in a company that really like fulfill your values and you're aligned with those people, it just makes for a much more dynamic experience. So I feel lucky that I found that so early on, found a company that was like embrace diversity. If you just like look at kind of our corporate org chart, I mean, there's women and different races and like, that's just who we are. We're very entrepreneurial and kind of always asking the question, why? And I love that. I think had I been at a different company that maybe didn't have those same values, I wouldn't have stayed as long.
So do you think you worked harder because you felt like you also needed to do your teams proud? Were you working for yourself? Were you hustling for yourself? Or was it maybe a mix of both?
I think it's a mix of both. I mean, I think personally, like, I like to win. I'm a competitor. I love a challenge. I always joke that, like, I don't do easy. It's just not in my DNA. So I think there's part of it that's like early on in your career, you're fighting for yourself. I think as I've elevated and built a team, it is more about that team. It's about training the next generation and showing them, I've learned from a lot of great leaders and a lot of good experiences in my life. And so trying to like pass that on to the next generation.
What's the hardest part about helping elevate the next generation? Like, what keeps you up at night as a leader?
Oh, that's such a loaded
question. Loaded, isn't it?
And
we learn from our mentors too, the good and the bad. So, and I think that there's, I think that's why we maybe have that drive too, is like, I've got it. I've got the information. Like, this is what I'm going to not do. This is what I am going to do. So what keeps you up at night? Cause we want to create great experiences for those folks on our team.
Yeah.
So
I think the biggest challenge is the time, right? So I know how to do something. I could probably do it in 5 minutes, but for me, it's like, okay, let's take a step back. We're going to set up a call with the team and I'm going to walk them through, like, here's how I do this. And so that might take an hour this time, but the goal is that next time they're able to do it. And I think that's a challenge. I think also, in this kind of post COVID world where we're still like a little hybrid, working from home, being on job sites, being in office, it being a little disconnected. Mm-hmm. That's a little harder to do. So I think that's the biggest challenge. And then, the other piece of it, honestly, is just like with this younger generation, they don't have as much of the social skills because they grew up on a generation that's almost exclusively behind screens, if we're being honest. So like, they can write a killer email, they can follow up, they can IM you, but like, as a leader, one of the main things you have to do is like be able to have confrontation and have hard conversations. Mm-hmm. And so I have seen that is something that's a bit more of a challenge. And again, that just goes back to like, well, come alongside me. We're going to do this together and you have to see how it works.
Well, and I think part of drive is it's not always easy. Like you got to get through some shit. And so you are a testament of, I've been with this great company. I've grown. I've been through the highs. I've been through the lows. And I think that when you're earlier on in your career, it got hard. So I left. It got hard, so I quit. Yeah, I've been here for 2 years, so certainly I can't learn anymore, and that's not true. No. So, what would be your advice to, or give us examples, or where you're at with? I've been in this great place. I've helped build teams. Like I'm thriving. I'm a part of this. Amazing. So. Yeah. What do you do? Like, what is the advice of when it gets hard, and how do you still grow and keep that fire in your belly? Because I'm built like you. Like I'm like, I want things to change, and our staff will joke, like, just when it like evens out, Melissa's like, let's do it this way, So let's add this, let's add that. I love that change, and I have to keep that fire because I get bored. Yeah. So how do you, as a driven person, like keep that fire in your belly without just going, I'm just going to go to another company. Yeah. I'm just going to do my own thing. I'm going to do this. So talk to me about that.
The thing you have to remember is like life is hard for everyone. It's either going to hit you professionally, it's going to hit you personally. It might not hit you till your 40s, but like everyone has hard things in their life. I've learned that later in life. And I think that's kind of a sobering, like guiding principle that I try to, because you just never know what someone's actually going through. I think drive is really about like being able to get through those hard times. Almost anyone can succeed when things are easy. Like, sorry, there's no real talent that goes along.
Congratulations.
Exactly, but doing things when things are easy. And so I think the advice that I would give people is like, pick yourself back up. And sometimes that is like, today I'm going to get up and I'm going to get dressed and I'm going to do my job. And that is it, because that's all I have capacity for. There's other days where you feel like you can take on the world and you're planning out for a year. But I think for me, when I have found like my hardest years or just when I've just been low, it's like, back to the basics, one step at a time. Like, let's just try to refocus and move forward. And I think those are the times when I look back that I'm actually most proud of, because I mean, that's a sense of accomplishment, right? Like when you've gotten through something really hard, whether it be professionally or personally, and you've come out on the other side, you see your growth, you see what you've built, whatever it is. I think those are the times that I treasure in my career. And so I would just encourage people that like, just keep going. Like one day at a time is sometimes all you can focus on, and that's okay.
What's the hardest part about adulting?
Oh gosh, kids. I think it's kids.
Who's harder to deal with? Kiddos
I know.
and family and that balance of work, but because that's also a big part of our work life.
Yes.
Is our personal life.
It is.
And what we're going through and what that season looks like.
And I think finding your balance and finding your non-negotiables is important too. I've certainly had those years where you've just like given too much and traveled too much and every hour is about work. And I think you lose yourself a little bit when you do that. So kind of finding how you balance life, because there's always going to be new things thrown at you. And I feel like I'm always having to like readjust what that means.
When in your career did you decide what your non-negotiables were? Early on or much later?
I think it was change? Like they've changed. So when I decided to get pregnant and have my daughter, I think that was the first time that was kind of like, I'm going to be home by this time. I'm turning the computer off when I'm home for these hours, and then like as she's gotten older and things have happened, like you kind of constantly have to readjust and make sure that you're like staying true to yourself.
For sure. Who is the person in your life who is sort of your grounding element? Somebody that no matter how frickin' shitty the day was, that you can say like, hey, I need to be heard. Like, who's that person in your life that you know you can always go to?
That's my husband. We've been together for 20 years. I joke that we were like children when we got together. And so we've kind of grown up together. We are in completely different fields. He's a creative. I'm in commercial real estate. But he's that person for me, whether it's like, I just need to talk to you. He's hilarious. So sometimes it's just like stupid humor that kind of lightens the mood. But he knows me the best and knows like, okay, why don't you just take tonight? Let's try again tomorrow, or let's go see a movie or whatever it is. So
are you guys similar or different?
We are total opposites.
Total opposites.
But we really have always looked at our relationship as a partnership. So I think we have a good like ebb and flow. Obviously we have some commonalities, but I would say in general, we're pretty different.
Yeah, Dave and I are the same. So we're talking about how to keep that fire in your belly and that drive alive as we continue to practice our craft, and we want to make sure that we're always challenging ourselves and pushing through and being nimble and all of that. You are the first female partner at your firm. That's amazing. Congratulations for being a badass. What advice would you give to a younger generation who's looking at you as like, I want to be you? Or advice that you would give to your younger self? Like, what does it take to like really push through and get to where you are?
I think the advice that I would give to younger women is you are enough. I think women are like way too critical on themselves, and we tend to like do all these lists and like, well, I haven't done this yet technically or whatever. Girl, you're enough. Just do it. Like you can level up. A man would say he's done it, so you've done it.
He would tell himself.
He would tell himself. So I think just knowing that like you are enough, and sometimes that might be a little bit of like pumping yourself up, faking it until you make it. Like do it. Like you've got it. You know your skill set. Be confident, and just remember that like you're enough. So if you want it, go for it.
And what's the push through? So we start as an intern, crazy kismet, like, hey, you should join our team, to being a part of this amazing team. And then again, pushing through to partner. Like, what was that push through? What was that like pivotal moment where, and what was the work? I mean, what did that look like to get to partnership?
Yeah. I mean, I think early on in anyone's career, it's about building your technical base. So whatever, in my world, that's financial modeling, that's understanding architectural drawings. It's a lot of pro formas and finances, and you have to understand the technical base, because that's where I think you get a lot of confidence for yourself, and that's where other people start to give you praise, is for kind of knowing the technical piece. And then from there, it's basically taking that and leveling up into like the social component. So I think you have to get to a point where you take that technical and you're able to build that into the next phase. So whether that's managing people, bringing new ideas to the table, like growth opportunities, I think is probably how I would say that. And then obviously being a partner is just kind of managing all of that together. But I would say get your technical stuff in order, get that foundation, and then really grow your social skills. I mean, any leader, like you have to be able to lead people. You have to be able to manage confrontation. Like you have to be able to deal with hard situations. And when someone comes to you and says, oh my God, I'm so sorry, but we have a huge problem. Like you have to be able to keep your cool and find a path forward. And so that's the advice.
Leaders are just like navigating fires.
All we do is put out fires. That's all I do.
Yes, totally understood. What is What do you do when you get overwhelmed or you feel like you're to the point where maybe, you're at break? Like what do we do?
As far as a personal reset or?
Yes.
So personal resets, one, you got to have vacations on the calendar. Just plan them at the beginning of the year so that you have something to look forward to. Love the Caribbean personally. I think my day-to-day is going and exercising. I think as you get older, you realize that exercise is a lot more about the mental than maybe it is about the physical. So whether that's like a bike ride with my daughter, going to the gym and lifting weights, just going outside and walking. I used to joke sometime I would go for rage walks. Like, you're really mad? Just like go outside and walk. Like, you will feel better.
If I hear you huffing and puffing on a call next time, I'm like,
exactly.
I think that bitch is rage walking right now. Yeah. Is it good to have goals?
Absolutely.
Do you write them down?
I do.
Okay. And do you feel like that helps you get to where you want to be?
I do. I think it kind of like guides you and kind of gives you a like, if you're setting goals at the beginning of the year and all of a sudden it's June and you kind of look back like, okay, am I like on track? Have I pivoted? Do I still want that? Because people change and that's okay too. But I think that's also part of being driven is like working towards those goals. For me, I have to have that like end point that I'm working towards. I don't do well just wandering. I don't think most people do. No.
So we're talking about the years we've been working together. You've seen our company grow and we've really scaled along with you all. It's been really cool to have these groups that we've grown kind of up with and out with. We started as interior design and we added other services and you've grown with us as we've done that. So we started with interiors and we started providing marketing and branding. What was attractive to you as a leader, as a team lead, as a project manager, all these things that you're handling every day? What was attractive about us being able to add those services into what we were doing with interiors?
Well, I think the thing I love most about working with Banko Design and the umbrella is just your adaptability really aligns with me. As you know, I mean, all of our projects are so different. And as I mentioned, like for me, a development is all about like finding our niche within our neighborhood and really targeting a very specific demographic. I mean, on the projects we've done, I don't think any of them have been similar. And so, the thing I love most about development is that it starts with this vision from my crazy head. And at the end of the day, we have this like tangible product. You can drive by, you can see it. And I think bringing people to the table, partnering with us to kind of create that vision is so key. So obviously we've worked together for years on the interior piece, which is huge. I mean, that's our first impression to our target demographic. So like we have to get that right.
And we love that about you.
Yes. I think what I had found over the years is like we spend so much time creating this like image and kind of a brand, if you will, of what we want it to be, and then bringing in a third-party marketing company cold that doesn't know it. They're just reviewing files. Like there was a bit of a disconnect in the storytelling. And so I think being able to have the brand services and the marketing that you guys offer really kind of gives us that cohesive story. So from the first interaction someone has on a website to when they see our signage, to when they walk through our front door, to when they get collateral, like the whole process is just streamlined.
That there's just a story behind it, a common thread.
Exactly.
Yes. So if your daughter comes to you and what would be your definition of success? What is the legacy? What do you want your daughter to see? What is success to you?
I mean, I think success is a lot about happiness. So success is not only like reaching milestones in my profession, which I'm very lucky to have made partner at such a young age. I have many years left to go. And so I have lots of things that I want to do. But I think with that, it's also about like being fulfilled personally and happy in my day to day. And I would want her to do the same thing. So I think whatever someone is looking to get into career wise, it's not just about money. It's not just about where your office is, but it's about being in a place where you can like feel fulfilled, feel heard, express your creativity if that's something that you like. So kind of balancing the like, corporate ladder, if you will, with like what your values are and how you are happy at the end of the day, so.
Okay, so let's take a look forward.
Okay.
What does 10 years from now look like?
10 years from now, I'm very fortunate in that I love where I am. I love what I do. I love the people I work with. So I certainly hope that in 10 years, it's just more of the good things that I have. I think life will be a little less hectic because I'll have a kiddo who's much older at that point. Obviously, raising children while doing a corporate gig can be quite challenging. And So starting to get some relief on that side would certainly be nice. But I would say more of the same. I mean, I love what I do. I hope that goes into, this year in particular, we're expanding into like adaptive reuse, which is a new animal for us. So I do think there are new opportunities, but at the end of the day, I'm very fortunate and have found something that I love and aligns with my values and my culture. So
how many more times are we going to the Caribbean?
Let's
between
just keep
now
doing
and
it. I mean, at least once a year. At least once a year, we're in the Bahamas. So.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah, let's build in the Bahamas. Actually,
can we?
Let's do that.
Why are we not working? Let's
put
put that on our vision board.
I love it.
Okay, so one of our previous guests is left you a question, and so we'd love for you to answer that from this guest this season. And if you had to describe yourself in 3 succinct words, what would those words be?
Well, this is kind of funny because we were just talking about fashion, and I just shared my 3 words for
I'm like,
fashion,
does it translate?
But I actually think it translates, so I'm gonna go for it.
Okay.
It's casual.
Okay.
It's tailored.
Okay.
And it's
sexy.
Those are my words. So
I love it. I love it.
That is too funny.
Well, I cannot thank you enough for joining me today and just talking all things partnership and development and interiors. You are a joy to work for, to work with. Another crazy visionary, so I totally speak your language and get
we
you.
share the same crazy.
It's a
perfect.
good I wouldn't.
It's a good crazy.
So thank you. It was a blast having you on and chatting with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that's the Banko Buzz.